Welcome to another premium tutorial. Why am I starting this video with music as well? Because I plan to publish this on YouTube as well. This tutorial is going to talk about front-run bots. We're going to talk about how to potentially profit from front-run bots. Usually front-run bots are an annoyance, right? You want to buy something, your transaction doesn't go through because a front-run bot was scanning the mempool, so the temporary storage where all the transactions are stored, and then found your transaction and then buys just before you. So your transaction doesn't go through, or it goes through for a worse price. Now in this video, I'm trying to reverse engineer some of the tactics that those kinds of front-run bots are deploying, because we can potentially take advantage of this. If we know the algorithm of a front-run bot, there is a potential hole there. There's a potential gap that we can exploit. Now for this video, we are going to use a relatively illiquid token, because that's what you normally want to do. You want to do this on assets that aren't too actively traded. So what we've got over here is the Aleph token on the Binance Smart Chain. It's got $200,000 worth of liquidity, and it had last been traded 50 minutes ago, right? So there's not a lot of trading right now. So whatever kind of trades we do are very, very unlikely going to clash with natural buyers and sellers. If our transaction here doesn't go through, this was with a very, very high likelihood an automated trading bot. Now let me tell you about a story roughly 2 years ago where I made money from other front-run bots. So what I figured out is that there was a certain front-run bot that would always buy whenever I submitted a transaction with a very, very high amount, as in I'd move the price quite a bit. So I figured out if I go beyond a certain threshold, then that front-run bot would buy before me, independent of my slippage. So let's say I'd buy only for $100, then the front-run bot wouldn't get active. But if I buy for $1,000, then the front-run bot would get active and buy just before me. So my $1,000 transaction doesn't go through because I only allowed slippage of say 0.1%. I'd move the price much more than 0.1%. The front-run bot would also move the price much more than 0.1%. And so my transaction doesn't go through. The front-run bot though is now holding the token and is then expecting me, because my prior transaction didn't go through, that I make that transaction again, right? So the strategy of this front-run bot is I front-run large transactions and I hope that the person that didn't succeed with the transaction is going to resubmit again so that I can then dump on that person. That was the idea of the front-run bot. Now there's a way to exploit this. And the way to exploit this is I bought several times small amounts with different wallets. So I bought $100 with many different wallets of that token that the front-run bot would not front-run. Then I would go with another wallet and buy very, very large amounts, say $1,000 or $2,000 with a transaction that doesn't go through, because that then gets front-run by the bot. The bot then holds all of those tokens and has elevated the price with his purchase. Now I don't submit again this large transaction with the big wallet. Instead, I now sell for that elevated price that has been pushed up by the front-run bot. I now sell all these small amounts that I have made in those other wallets. And so you could rinse and repeat this with different wallets. You could rinse and repeat this with different tokens, and you made quite a bit of money with this, or at least you made consistent money with this. I did roughly, I believe, 2,000 trades or so, and I automated all of this. Now nowadays, the front-run bot landscape is of course a bit more complex. The bot that I was exploiting also in the end fixed their hole, they fixed their problem. But I want to use this video to revisit this whole strategy again and to also inspire you to potentially make money with this as well, potentially also automate it. I will also share in premium, of course, the code that I used for the strategy that I just explained. Now let's see. I did a bit of a preparation for this video yesterday already, and I actually expected that I could simply just revisit this whole strategy again, but I was actually disappointed because even with a small purchase, I got front run, and I have an idea why. But let me first show you what I mean, right? This was all very theoretical talk. Here's again our token that we are using for our case study. We use the Aleph token on the Binance Smart Chain. So I'm going to buy a relatively small amount with regular slippage. I do not expect, because of the small amount and of the slippage, that any front run bot would be interested in front running this trade. So you can first see if something like this just goes through, or if you see any kind of irregular behavior on DEX Screener. So I've just submitted the transaction. I've confirmed this with my hardware wallet, and we see everything went through, all fine. Now let me show you how we can potentially trigger a front run bot. And why would this now be interesting? Because if we can get the front run bots to buy, and we're already holding this token in another wallet, we could then sell the token for this elevated price. So let's go with, let's say 1 BNB. So this is now $300. This is already moving the price a little bit, 0.6%. So this could already be interesting for the front run bots on the Binance Smart Chain. Let's also set very, very low slippage. Let's go artificially low, something like this, right? Because what we then get is a warning here, your transaction may fail. And this is then especially interesting for the front run bots, because people that set these slippages in order not to get front run, or in order not to get in favorable price, they might submit their transaction again. So let's run this, and I expect this not to go through. So we confirm the swap. We run this also through the hardware wallet, right? This is what you want to do with your secured assets. And I now expect this actually to fail. There we go. Transaction receipt failed. And what we now will see on the DEX screener is actually that somebody else bought for pretty much the same amount, interestingly enough. Now we can filter by this address. So we can click here on this little filter icon, and we can see how active this particular bot is trading, right? So what now would happen is, if I submit my transaction again, is that this bot would dump on me. So he'd be selling just before my transaction goes through, and he makes money from that. But what we also see now is that we actually got a better price, right? We increased the price here. If I would have not just taken $100 or $300, whatever it was. Yeah, if I wouldn't have just taken $300, but let's say 1,000, then the price would have moved even more. Now, what's good about this is I have artificially increased the price. Because I own the token on another wallet, I can now sell for this elevated price on the other wallet, because the other wallet's sales wouldn't be that much of a red flag, right? But let's see, maybe we can trigger the front run bot yet again. But again, right, so this seems to still work. If you submit a transaction with very low slippage, and you do this with high enough of an amount that moves the price, relatively speaking, by more than, say, 0.5%, then you're likely going to see a front run bot front running you. But let's make this a bit more juicy. Let's try to trigger more front run bots. And I believe that then the first front run bot here might actually dump even on the other bots. So let's go with, let's say 5 BNB, right? $1,500, make the same thing again. And I'd be very surprised if there's not more front run bots that want to take this nice offer here, right? That want to also front run me here. And let's submit this yet again. We get a failure again. And now let's have a look. Who is buying? Yeah, there we go. We see another bot that just bought for 1,144. So even more than what I bought for. And what we've now created is we have increased the price. We have created this candle out of nothing, right? This is an increase of, what is it now? 2.8%. And I can now go to my other wallet and sell for this elevated price. Now, you have to figure this out, right? You have to reverse engineer when those front run bots get triggered and when they don't get triggered. And there's all kinds of logic there. There's the slippage, there's the size of the transaction. There's also if you currently use a wallet that's already been used before, right? So obviously those front run bots don't want to front run each other that much. So they've also got a list of other wallets. So if you use your own wallet too often, repeatedly, to make this on a single token, then the front run bots might blacklist either the token address or they might blacklist your wallet. So you have to pretty much maintain a list of tokens that you do the strategy with, but also maintain a big list of wallets or automatically create wallets via a program to make that work. And so that's actually the most time consuming thing once you automate this. As said, I did this hundreds and hundreds of times. I think 2,000 times I did this and I made a bit of money with this. It wasn't huge money, but I did very consistent money with it. But also I spent several hours every day just maintaining this because I didn't have yet the logic, the automatic logic to automate this, as in to find the right tokens. So what I did then is I looked at the history of the front run bots and I looked at what kind of tokens do they front run. I did this manually and put this into a list. I also generated wallets all the time. Then once you've done your profit with one wallet, you have to send this to the next wallet, right? Then some front run bots even check out those sending transactions. So you have to be a bit clever on how to set this up, that you do not get spotted by those front run transactions, that you're actually just faking those purchases. Now let me show you how you can find other tokens to potentially do this with. So we're going again to the website, dexscreener.com, and we check those 3 front run bot purchases. So those 3 are all front run bots, and we can click over here. We see from where this is coming from and where the money went to. So this token now went to this particular wallet, and we can then see, for example, via dbank, what other tokens is this wallet holding. So right now it's only holding Aleph, but what we can also do is we can go to BSC scan, filter by that address, and check the BEP20 or ERC20 transactions and check what kind of tokens had been traded beforehand. So getShiba.us seems to be something that gets front run, then OUSD.fi, etc. So these are all very, very small assets, and you can simply go through all of those different bots and look at what they're trading. That's then the tokens that you want to use to make this front run bot faking game going on. Now, how can you avoid getting front run? You can either set the right limits, right? You don't buy too high of an amount each time relative to liquidity size. You can make sure that you don't have the triggering slippages, so not too high, not too low. You can also use a dark pool, so you can use, for example, the 1-inch DEX aggregator, and then your transaction doesn't land in the public mempool where all the front run bots can read it, but instead it lands in a dark pool, and then there's some kind of mechanism that tries to find the right price. So you avoid front running, but I'm not sure if the price that you're achieving there is good enough to make this here work. So figure a way to get the token without getting front run, and then elevate the price via faking the front runs and letting them hold the token. Now those front run bots are now holding the token. They will hold it for a while, but not forever. So it again depends on the bot itself, but usually they sell within 1 to 2 hours. Some hold for 6 hours. Some hold based on how many transactions there have been. So a very illiquid token might be held for a bit longer. If you want to buy a token and your transaction doesn't go through and you don't want to get dumped on by those front run bots, you simply just wait for the next day. Usually on the next day, those kind of front run bots have already sold, but you can also simply just continue watching that order book and see at what point in time are they selling, or you can watch their debanks, etc. Simply just focus on their holdings. That's another thing that I did in my automation of this, right? I always, when I checked what kind of token to fake trade, right, I always checked in the front run bots that I already know, are they holding the token? I would only do this kind of trading for the tokens that are not held by any of the front run bots that I'm checking, because once they hold the token, they can dump it just before my transaction goes through, and then my buying transaction isn't that favorable. Another thing to consider is that there's not just front run bots, there's also arbitrage bots. So whenever you do something like this, don't do this with a token that has 5 different liquidity pools, because the arbitrage bots, they make money by balancing out the prices across the different liquidity pools. So again, maybe another thing, in case you're new to this, you need to have a bit of knowledge of this whole topic, but I want to show you a little bit of an introduction. So you go here to the token address and you search for the token address on DEX Screener. Then you find the different liquidity pools. If you now had a massive liquidity pool that's the same size, then you probably don't want to use this to induce front run bot trading, because the arbitrage bots are going to take a lot of the profit. In this case, we do have a second liquidity pool, but it's so small that it's rarely happening that an arbitrage bot is going to make money from this. So what will happen here once you execute on a strategy like this is you will have a lot of trial and error. You will have a lot of work trying to reverse engineer the other front run bots' logic. You will exploit the logic for a while. You can't overdo it. You can't run this logic like every minute, because then the front run bot developers will find out about it. You have to be a bit delicate around this, right? You maybe do one of those trades every hour or every second hour. You simply just check how much money does the front run bot do? How many trades does he do? If he's doing 20 trades every hour and you do one of those front run bot fake trades in that hour, then the developer will not notice, right? But if the front run bot only makes, say, one profitable trade every hour and you run several times per hour your fake trade, then that opening, right, that we exploit with something like this might get closed, right? And he might find out how to avoid or how to spot your particular fake transactions, right? The fake buying transaction. Again, this was a premium tutorial. I normally don't publish in-depth content like this directly on YouTube. If you want to get the code for my front run bot that I used 2 years ago, feel free to join premium. It's TheBitcoinStrategy.com. Link is down below. And if it's your first time here on this channel, feel free to subscribe as well. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow.